while they were.
Because she's so, because we had the upstairs at the end of town, so we were in upstairs, and she was downstairs by herself. She's staying there for hours. I was out there at night, I was, I was starting.
So what did you do with the bike plan? Did you take it home and put it?
It is sitting right next to my desk. But needless to say, after I just like started.
I saw you sitting there going, oh, I take a picture with your phone.
I was so excited by this. And then I had to call
Maya had the nerve to call me and her. She was calling filibuster.
Yeah, but I had to break that.
I've got some more ear from you than me.
When I found out the fans of like the city of Reading and stuff like that, I was excited. I was going to say, hey, no, see this, see this.
But also what I found out is there's the schematics of each individual compensation. And actually, so I can actually read through the reports and find out where the specific failures are. Station came from, where the
No, what, yeah, well.
Lose it, make sure you put it in an environment. Probably should have.
They're like,
So it was not the only copy.
no, the reason why we got it was because our emergency action it was the only
Let's see what else I can find. I'm almost done. It was until I got down and cleaned out the storage room. Yeah, that would be the next. We
no, all the stuff that I've seen.
The red button that's God's share.
That's my problem. You mean that button? Oh boy.
Now you're caught.
What are you running for? No, not when you do.
Yeah. Morning. I ask you to please stand if you're able for the prayer for the Pledge of Allegiance. Eternal Father, we call upon you this morning in this meeting. We know that you will answer us. We ask that we align our thoughts with what your will is for us to accomplish. Show us great and mighty things each day, so that we bring glory to your name through our thoughts and actions. Lord, we recognize and are thankful for the freedoms we have in this great land. We are especially grateful for leaders like Washington and Lincoln as we reflect on President's Day this week. These two leaders faced enormous opposition and fell on their knees to seek your wisdom. Grant us your mercy and wisdom. God, we love you, and we gather to carry out the tasks that you have given to us in order to fulfill our purpose. We humbly ask you these things in your name. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. This time we convene the Commissioners' meeting. Ask for the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. So carried. This time we'll have a public comment on any agenda items only. Please come forward to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Good morning, Commissioners. Todd Lauer. I'm back again.
Morning, Todd.
Going to comment on action item 7.1 and 7.2. Okay. Back to the cops. We're back to the police again. Okay. I'm against this. Okay. But I'm going to just read something here real quick that I wrote. It's called Society's Child. I wrote this. I'm just going to run through that. In America's supposed empyrean society, that means great. Today, one of the most unnerving scenarios being played out is the extremely dangerous and crystal clear similarities of the indoctrination of our children and the very same tactics used by Nazi Germany's Hitler Youth programs and overt campaign of educational indoctrination which was responsible for winning millions of young German citizens to Nazism using extracurricular programs in the very classrooms that our tax dollars pay to fight against and teach about these past regimes and the reign of terror they inflicted not only on the rest of humanity but also upon their own people. Startling are the similarities ranging from textbooks teaching obedience to militarism and the authority of state to the removal of educators considered politically unreliable. To spread political and racial propaganda, toys and board games were another vehicle used for youth indoctrination, especially for militarism. We must not forget the Hitler Youth Program, which was used to brainwash, train children for future service within the government and armed forces. Am I the only one here who can clearly see the writing on the wall? Here are a few examples of what message I am trying to send. We have a Boy Scout program known as Explorers, 12, 13, 14-year-old kids that are taught to teach, Boy Scout program known as Explorers that teach our young to carry out terrorism training drills at 14 years old. And let's not forget the most dangerous program that currently exists in our backyard, known as Camp Cadet, which I say is just another form of Hitler Youth. Pennsylvania State Police from Troop F located at Montoursville Barracks. These types of programs are extremely dangerous to not only the right and ability of our youth to be free thinking, but also to the Constitution of these United States. Adolf Hitler recognized himself the value of youth indoctrination, as he noted, when an opponent declares, "I will not come over to your side," which is basically me, "and you will not get me on your side," which is definitely me, I calmly say, "Your child already belongs to me." Now remember, this is Adolf Hitler talking here. A people lives forever. What are you? You will pass on. Your descendants, however, now stand in the new camp. In a short time, they will know nothing else but this new community. Is this the path we truly want our children to take, traveling through life? I think not. And this is from the International Military Tribunal, 1946, page 120, and the United States Holocaust Memorial Auditorium, indoctrinating our youth. So I'm going to let it to data. I'm not going to chop anymore. I'd like to, but I'll wait to the end. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on agenda items only? Okay.
3.0 TDA actions with Roxanne Greco.
Morning, Roxanne.
Says do not touch that.
You just did.
Do not touch.
Good move.
Commissioners, we are asking you to make a change in the TDA In the voter services area, the removal of one part-time clerk, one part-time position.
Okay. Motion to remove one of the part-time clerk, one positions in voter registration.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So carried.
In the Department of Public Safety, moving on to personnel actions, John D. Yingling is a part-time temporary DPS Special Projects position, pay grade 11, $35 an hour. This is a new position, not to exceed 500 hours, and it's effective February 18, 2020. In the Department of Public Safety Communications, Joshua R. Hewlett as a full-time replacement DPS telecommunicator 1 without experience, pay grade 6, $16.95 an hour, effective February 24th, 2020. In the courts for Judge Tira, Alexandra D. Sholey, full-time replacement law clerk 2, pay grade 11. $50,548.35 annually, effective February 18th, 2020. At RMS Resource Recovery, Andrew Miller, full-time replacement equipment operator, pay grade 6, $18.492404 an hour, effective February 23rd, 2020. Also at RMS, under Resource Recovery, Eric S. Manival, full-time replacement material recovery facility maintenance specialist, pay grade 7, $18.08 an hour, effective February 18th, 2020. In Planning and Community Development, John E. Lavelle III, full-time promotional replacement, Deputy Director of Planning and Community Development, pay grade 12, $69,246.76 annually, effective February 23rd, 2020. And finally, in Planning and Community Development, Heather L. George, full-time replacement, Clerk 4, pay grade 5, $15.22 an hour, effective February 18th, 2020.
Okay, I'd like to address the Director of Public Safety at this time. The Lycoming County Commissioners have approved an upcoming change in the organizational leadership in the Department of Public Safety. In late 2019, John Yingling announced his intention to retire at the end of the calendar year, following 30 years of outstanding and highly dedicated service to Lycoming County. After an extensive search for the most qualified and appropriate candidate, the Lycoming County Commissioners have selected Jeff Hutchins to be the next Director of Public Safety, beginning on February 23rd, 2020. Mr. Hutchins. Mr. Hutchins' extensive experience in training in fire, EMS, 911 communications, coupled with a Bachelor of Science in Occupational Safety and Health, his tested leadership abilities will serve the Department of Public Safety and residents of our county well. Any other comment regarding Mr. Hutchins? Mr. Hutchins, would you like to say a few words? We're in attendance here.
Not really a few words. It's the first time I officially got to see the commissioners. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. DPS is already set up with a great team. I'm familiar with everyone. I'm just looking forward to getting busy in the new role and leading the department on. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So the public understands, the reason we have John Yingling here in a part-time temporary position is so that he can do some transition work with the new director in terms of orienting him to current projects and so forth. And we don't expect that that's going to take long. It says not to exceed 500 hours. But we appreciate Mr. Yingling juggling his life schedule to come back and do this after he's officially retired. He could be in Acapulco or wherever one goes for retirement. So we do thank him and welcome the new director. I don't even want to ask you this question because I don't want to put you on the spot. But at RMS, you have one person at 18.492404, and then at RMS you have one person at 18.08. And I'm sure the public looks at that and says, how come one has got 6 Decimals.
I try to make it a 2 decimal, but once they're in the system and the system automatically generates to a 6-digit,
For certain positions. Okay.
for certain positions, and we have, I believe it's the court reporters,
Yeah.
that is why the system is the way it is. But commissioners, I try every time to make it a 2-digit.
The computer
I
controls
convert
our
it.
life.
I know, I convert it.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the personnel actions? If not, I ask for a motion to accept the personnel actions as a whole.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
All fair say aye.
Aye.
So carried. Thank you.
Welcome.
Moving on to salary board actions, we made a change to the TDA, and as part of that, we have a salary schedule that needs to be changed also. And that's the voter services position, the part-time clerk 1, to be removed from the salary schedule.
Motion to accept the removal of one part-time clerk, one position.
I'll make a motion.
Yeah, we should.
Yes. Convene salary board at this time. During the commissioners' meeting, convene the salary board meeting at this time. Ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
All fair say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So carried.
Thank you.
Convene during the salary board at this time, we'll reconvene the commissioners' meeting.
6.0, information items, with Maya Toon, cancel bid solicitation for the levy.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning, Maya.
We are just asking that we cancel this solicitation as the project needs to be rescoped, and once we have new specifications, we do intend on rebidding the project.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll move to the action items. 7.1, Maya Toon, a grant and monitoring agreement with Lycoming Police Camp Cadet Foundation Incorporated.
This is an agreement as part of our outside agency budget that was approved by the Commissioners. It's for $3,000 to Lycoming Police Camp Cadet Foundation. This will be used specifically for the Camp Cadet program, which is designed to introduce youth to the diverse criminal justice system in Lycoming County and establish positive relationship with law enforcement personnel, which focuses on discipline, self-esteem, teamwork, drug and alcohol education, violence prevention, and many other issues facing today's youth. And I do believe today we have the sheriff here that probably would like to say a few comments as well.
Can you again address the items that it helps with the youth? What you just
Absolutely, sure. The program is designed to introduce youth to the diverse criminal system, criminal justice system, and that provides positive relationship with law enforcement personnel, which focuses on discipline, self-esteem, teamwork, drug and alcohol education, violence prevention, as well as many other issues that.
Thank you. That's what I wanted you to highlight.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning, Commissioners. I was on the board of Camp Cadet for about 25 years, and this camp was started by Trooper Dick Wrights. Many of us know Dick Wrights as a big promoter of our youth.
1976?
1976, second camp in the state, and the longest running camp in Pennsylvania. Camp Cadet has had, in large part with support of boards of commissioners, including this Board of Commissioners, funding to help offset the costs for camp. We've had approximately 5,000 youth who've gone through camp. The original camp was the old Camp Susquehanna, where the mosquitoes and the bear and the snakes were there, which is what you should have in a camp. But then they went to the easier side of life, and we partnered with Steve Keener and Little League, and we have no snakes, no bears, no reptiles except if they come in with the Fish Commission or the Game Commission. We have a number of personnel that work camp, many county employees, not solely law enforcement. In fact, the majority of staff at camp are not law enforcement. They may be law enforcement affiliated, but we have children and youth, domestics, staff from literally every area of operation in the county, many of whom donate their own time and go to camp on vacation time. The youth that are put through camp, the camp costs about $15,000, give or take. The youth that go through camp do so because we are able, as a foundation, to raise the funds that are needed in addition to the funds that the commissioners provide. We have programs such as crime scene, bike safety, vehicle safety, pedestrian safety, how to handle animals or stay away from animals. We have water safety. We have activities that go on at Little League. Commissioner Mesker, you're aware of it as an uncle at Little League. It is a week action-packed with mentoring our youth. And quite frankly, Commissioner Marabito said it best. The more mentoring we do for our youth, the less we have at the other end of the program, which is where I come in, and the prison comes in, and adult probation comes in, and the courts come in. This is a highly touted program, statewide and nationwide, and on behalf of the Board of Directors of Camp Cadet, of which I'm now retired, I guess they call you emeritus when you're old, we thank you for your support for this program and the continued support that you give.
Thank you. I find Camp Cadet to be an outstanding program. It's a feeder program. Again, as stated, what Commissioner Marabito has stated, it's educating people on the front end so they don't end up in the system on the back end. And for us to have 5,000 people go through that program since 1976 is a testament to that program.
My granddaughter attended that camp, and I spent a half day over there, and it was pretty impressive, and how the students were receptive to the teachings. It was incredible, and they did donate their own time. I was very impressed, and for Mr. Lauer, I would ask you to go over to the camp and witness it, see what they do, because you would be pretty impressed, and you may come back with another comment. That's all I have to say.
That's actually a good suggestion, Commissioner Massera. It's the relations we have with police and so forth in our lives are complicated. Some of you know I grew up without a father because he passed away when I was like 2 days old. But there was a police officer named Dick who came down to our street in his patrol. I remember his name. I still remember his name, right? All these years later. And we used to run around his car, up to his car, to talk to him. And he filled a spot in our day when he came down to the community. And he stood for something. And sadly, that isn't necessarily the experience that everyone has. And if someone has a bad experience with police, whether it's at youth or some other time, but I think what we can try to do is help understand where they are and change their hearts and views about it. And I think, Commissioner Massera, your suggestion is a fantastic one, because, and I'd be happy to go there with you, Mr. Lauer, because I think what it does is it enables us to see the world through the eyes of that 11-year-old child or 10-year-old child, and it may really make a difference also on how we perceive it. So the invitation's open, and you can tell us the dates. It would be great for us to go as people who dedicate money to this also. So thank you for that.
When you see what's going on in the cities, for instance, New York, where they're throwing water on the police, harassing them while they're there to protect the residents of the community. This past weekend, 2 of them were executed, sitting in their car working on reports. Walked up and shot them in the head. Then walked into the police station and opened up fire on the police while they're on duty. These are the people protecting us. And if those people that chose that lifestyle could be reached through programs such as this, they may have a different aspect and a different outlook towards the police. So at this time, I ask for a motion.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So carried.
Seven point two, Myatune, grant and monitoring agreement with Law Enforcement and Police Training Association.
Yes, these funds are again part of the 2020 allocation for outside agency budgets to the LEA. It's an amount of $25,000. It's to help maintain operational needs so they can provide services throughout Lycoming County.
I think both of these the first one and the second one, are coming out of Act 13 fund.
Typically, that's where we take it out of.
Yeah.
through it, and then we place it in as an outside agency budget, correct?
Right.
Any comments on this? Ask for a motion to accept the monitoring agreement with Law Enforcement Police Training Association in the amount of $25,000.
I move to approve.
I'll second that motion.
All fair side? Aye.
And I think the sheriff would like to make comment on this contract as well, too.
Yes.
On behalf of Chief Hope, who couldn't be here today, who's our president of LEA, LEA is very appreciative of the funding that you provide. As an LEA component, which is not just law enforcement in the county, but 39 agencies, including many county departments, compose LEA, adult probation, juvenile probation, the prison system, the 911 center. This funding goes to the effort to continue our team effort as we provide services in the county. Individual departments can handle their individual calls on the street, whether it be an EMS incident or whether it be a barking dog. But when you get the large incident and we have a large response need, it's a countywide effort from DPS to the law enforcement agencies in the community and other county agencies to assist. Our effort with this training funding is to bring local training here so we don't have to travel. We save travel expense, we save housing, as far as lodging. For the first time in the history of Lycoming County, we're going to bring a program here called Street Survival, which Commissioner Metzger would know that name under Caliber Press. It's how to stay safe as a law enforcement officer, how not to get ambushed. You just mentioned New York City. Those types of street savvy tactics that keep our men and women alive. They're coming here in July. The judges, we schedule it so the judges, when the judges are actually at conference, we have a response from the county law enforcement group, 80 of the 100 needed for the seating. We're going to Trade and Transit 2. Director Toon is assisting us because of the relationship with the county to get it at almost no cost. The cost for the program per officer, if we sent them, was $259 plus all the expenses for 2 days. Nobody has to travel. They gave us a rate of $159 when Sergeant Kula put the package together. So the funding is extremely important, extremely valuable, and from LEA, we certainly thank you for your support.
I want to put it in perspective. The commissioners don't have control of a lot of discretionary spending, right? And this is discretionary spending. And if we give some to the Community Arts Center, or Camp Cadet, or to the LEA, but Camp Cadet, out of 116,000 people, it cost everybody 2 cents. Wow. You know, the LEA, it cost everybody 21 cents. Okay? And this is our community. And these are the things that we need as leaders of our community to say, what is the value? And let me tell you, we get a lot more than 2 cents out of it. And we get a lot more than 21 cents out of it. We have people that are committed to this community. You know, they live here, they raise their kids here, they have grandchildren here, and they want this community to thrive. And so, with the limited amount of discretionary income that we have to pass along, you know, I can't tell you, we get 100-fold by it. So
Can't even buy a penny candy for 2 cents.
Right.
Well, you know, this training and other training, like the crisis intervention training, has done an incredible job of helping not only to keep our law enforcement officers safe, but to keep our citizens safe, so that when someone has a serious mental health issue and they're behaving in a way that is not how a typical person would behave, rather than arresting them and possibly during the process of trying to get them arrested, becoming injured, crisis intervention training is teaching officers how to intercede in a way that de-escalates the situation. And that training, we've sent a lot of officers through. And I have seen it firsthand in the community when I've seen people who have serious mental health issues being approached by the police. And it's a world of difference. And it's really important. I mean, it's us doing something for our fellow human beings that is positive.
Okay.
7.3 Chelsea Blair Flood Mitigation Assistance Grant Program Agreement.
Morning, Chelsea.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is a grant that was submitted back in early 2019, late 2018, for one property located in Loyalsock Township on Warrensville Road. This is a voluntary program for the homeowner and the municipality, as well as the federal government, which is FEMA. This grant is offered by FEMA for homes that are either repetitive loss or severe repetitive loss homes. That means that they have a national flood insurance that they've submitted claims for, meeting either one of those requirements.
Any discussion on this action item? None.
The only thing to reiterate is that all three parties have to agree. The homeowner, right?
Yes.
The state and the feds.
Actually, the
Oh, the
municipality.
municipality.
Yep.
So it isn't just there's lots of checks and balances so that we know that this is really a property that's better to pay off, and the cost benefit analysis, we're gonna do better in the long run.
Yep, actually this home in particular deals with 14 feet of water. I did look it up on the flood maps earlier this morning just to verify the 13-foot amount, and it ended up being even deeper than what I remembered. And it's right on the Loyalsock, so that's kind of one of more of our crazy streams, we'll put it that way. And they have had several issues in the past with that property.
I'm a little behind on my email.
Yeah.
So did we ever find out how much you purchased the house for?
So the actual purchase price of the home was actually let me have it right in front of me. It was in 1989. And at that time, the home with the inflation rate would be $300,000 in today's costs.
What was the purchase price?
It was $145,000, but when you do the inflation rate to it, it's $300,000.
I'd love my value to appreciate that much.
And this is at no cost to the county?
It is at no cost to the county. We are just acting as a pass-through. We are a designation of agent, so that just means we would act on behalf of the municipality to fulfill the buyout requirements.
The reason I mentioned earlier is I don't want the public to think that municipal elected officials do this willy-nilly. It means that we now lose the tax base on that house.
Yes.
And you can see that if you do that a lot, a whole community's tax base can be really, really hurt. So elected officials at all levels take a good examination of it.
We actually really appreciate the thinking that the municipality has. There were a couple of properties that homeowners wanted to do a buyout with, and the municipality actually stepped up to the plate and saying, there's other mitigation tactics out there, correct? And so that's how we kind of developed the beginnings of the utility elevation program again, was because of them, and kind of really thinking outside the box and willing to look at those programs.
And I believe in this property, the homeowner actually tried to build his home up.
He did. They actually did, and they ended up using previous flood claims to try to do that, which actually is the whole purpose of when getting a claim in the flood insurance program. They make it so that the home has to become into compliance. And so the homeowner actually did try to do that. Unfortunately, they got hit twice in the process of trying to do that because it's so close to the creek.
Now, just within the last couple of days, it gets frustrating being a commissioner. Because we see agencies that usurp the power of the official, elected officials, such as DEP, DCNR, probably this FEMA. They put restrictions and strings attached to everything that decades later does not serve the good of people. Okay? And we're stuck. We're having difficulties trying to purchase the land underneath our building, for crying out loud, because we took government money. We're having issues trying to sell the land at the golf course because we took $20,000 and they confiscated 455 acres. But I think that people better start to be aware of what we're losing, such as these properties, okay? They're officially off the tax base forever. Forever. So if in the future someone says, hey, well, my stream is, let's put a dam up or a dike up, right? Land's no longer any good. We cannot, get that back on the tax rolls. I think, we have to start to look and say, how much money and what strings are we willing to take, or put up with? But it is frustrating looking at some of the things that we're trying to accomplish, and our hands are tied, okay? I'm pretty disgusted with it all myself.
And I understand. I will say with this portion and some of the issues that you had raised, the requirements that are part of this is for it to remain an open space. And there are allowable uses underneath FEMA guidelines on what is an allowable use. And that's primarily park and recreation, pretty much leaving it as an open space natural environment. That is actually a deed restriction within the deed and must remain that way forever and beyond. I have issues saying that word. But it must remain in the deed, and it will forever remain in that deed. And so I do understand in some of those situations that it may not have been in the deed, but this property will actually, because of the grant requirements.
I have a motion to accept the flood mitigation assistance grant program agreement.
I'll move to approve.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
So carried.
7.4 Roxanne Greco, agreement with the Roberts Company for the staffing of temporary employees.
Commissioners, we're asking you for approval of the contract agreement with the Roberts Company outlining the responsibilities of both parties for providing staffing, primarily right now for the RMS site.
I have a motion to accept the agreement with Roberts Company for staffing of temporary employees.
I'll move to
A second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. So carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
7.5 Jerry Kennedy, purchase of replacement hardware for the Solomon Financial Server at RMS in the amount of $14,288.98.
Morning, Jerry.
Morning. Commissioners, this is our standard replacement cycle for a server at RMS. As noted, it is the financial server for the RMS operations. I will note that the dollar figure on the agenda is different than what I have. It should be $14,229.12. I'll make sure you get the updated numbers on that. During this process, we'll also be upgrading their financial software and in that process, adding some efficiencies. Currently, the RMS staff will print and fax invoices to our carriers. In the future, they will be able to directly email those and save a couple hours out of their day.
Any discussion on this action item? I have a motion to accept the purchase of replacement hardware software for the Solomon Financial Server at RMS.
I'll move.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. So carried.
Moves to 9.0 Commissioner comment.
Just to elaborate a little bit on what Commissioner Massar was, it has been somewhat of a frustrating week. We've learned that that there is money that was used in the 1978 purchase and addition of the golf property, White Deer golf property. And in order to sell any part of that land, we have to do a conversion. which is we have to come up with a piece of land that would be adequate to what's there, as more or less, in my words, as a trade-off, a conversion. We can't do anything until that process is done. It's not dead in the water, it's just more hoops we have to jump through. And as a board of commissioners, and speaking with planning, looking at records on a different approach to that. Also learned that that might be the case on the property that we're sitting on right now. That when this property was destroyed in the fire in 1980, there was federal monies that were used by the city to purchase the land under this building. So again, that's not a definite, they're exploring that and looking through their records to see how we go about that. Just another obstacle in the way doesn't mean that we're going to stop. There's different ways we can attack this, and it's just another hoop that we got to jump through, and we will get things done. It's just going to delay the process a little bit longer. It is frustrating because it's like Commissioner Massar say it's stuff from 30, 40 years ago that wasn't even in deeds. This actually happened in Reading, where they put a building up. Is Shannon here?
Oh, she was.
She was. She's the one that brought this to our attention, and they actually had a $10 million building on the property, never in the deed. And they found out about the conversion after the fact, and the County of Berks had to go out and purchase land to do as a conversion.
So just for the public to understand, when elected officials in the state legislature or in Congress say, okay, we're going to put aside, and it might be that they're putting aside money for open public space or for recreation, they want to know that the money is not going to be done in a bait and switch. That's not what we're trying to do here. We're not trying to do a bait and switch, but they want to be able to say to constituents, look, you know, we've either spent this tax money, or they may have taken a bond, and the bond may have certain requirements for the folks who are making the payments on the bond, that the proceeds of the bond are going to be used a certain way. You know, for example, what happened with our building at 3rd Street Plaza. So it is frustrating for elected officials like us 40 years later. On the other hand, it probably ultimately protects the public, because they know that if something's going to be done for one thing, that it's not going to be changed later. Does that not give flexibility? I don't know. We also can try to talk to the agencies and see, since the passage of time and so forth has gone on, and our elected officials can certainly talk to the agencies. Since the passage of time has gone on, maybe there can be some accommodations made.
I think if anybody bait and switched, it was them for $20,000.
Well, no. I'm not saying we were baiting and switching. I mean, I could give you examples where municipal governments or not just any government official might get money for one. They don't want you to get money for one thing and then use it for something else. It's just like us. We don't want to give the money to an organization and then find out that they used it for some other purpose, right?
So
it's frustrating.
The frustrating thing is you don't see it in the deed.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well,
So even before the comprehensive plan was done, the past Board of Commissioners, before you were here, we had a plan for the golf course, right? And there's no water, there's no sewer. And we know that the comprehensive plan was going to, our growth area was going to be in that corridor, right? So, geez, if that's going to be our growth area, maybe we can support that corridor and benefit the taxpayer, because the golf course is your land. It's the taxpayers' land. It's no longer the authority's land. They took care of that in 2006, I believe, that they transferred all assets because they were failing to the taxpayers. So 5 years ago, we're sitting here saying, well, this is a good idea. I mean, we could see Montgomery has a fabulous school district. And we could see our golf course, your land, as a potential for development if the golf course were to fail. So what did we do? We invested in the economic development and possibly the prosperity of one and possibly $2 million. And then to find out, well, you better cancel the water lines because we might not be able to do it now. But we already put the sewer in it. You know, and it's because it wasn't memorialized. It wasn't on the deed. We can't even find the paperwork right now. Okay? So these are the frustrating things in government that just, you know, you try to do your best to represent the taxpayers, and then it may be well, I won't say it's a bad decision because it will bring growth to that area.
The good news is we found this out on the front end. So we can attack it.
Yeah.
And we can get it, we can make the adjustments we need to make. And hopefully through a conversion or speaking to Fred Keller's office and seeing what he can help us with and going that route. But it's just gonna take a little bit more time.
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, in the worst case scenario, we would take equivalent land and we would convert it. We would take land that's not publicly accessible now, we would convert it because...
If it were our land.
Well, honestly, even if it's not our land, I know it seems...
It defeats the purpose
well,
of what
not necessarily. If the ultimate purpose is to stimulate development down there, in the short term, we may have to pay a little, but in the long run, that whole area, right? And that's what our goal was. Our goal was to try to get the water sewer down there, spur some economic development, get some other businesses in there. And it just, you know, as you said earlier, it just it might take a little longer. We might have to jump through some hoops, but we're gonna move ahead and do it, so.
Yeah, we will be moving ahead, just an extra hurdle we have to cross. Any other commissioner comment? If not, at this time, public comment. Mr. Lauer? I would ask that you...
Thank you for being forthcoming on that golf course thing. That's
Yes, I
pretty
would,
clarity. I like that. Todd Lauer, Jersey Shore.
Excuse
All
me,
right.
Mr. Lauer, I ask you to keep your comments to 3 minutes or
3
less.
minutes, yep, I
Okay,
understand.
thank you.
I know you people probably, I'm like, why do I come here and I talk like this? Well, I'm gonna just lay it out to you. All I ever hear is, we're heroes, the good, the good, the good. Give us millions of dollars and we'll be heroes. We'll keep you safe, we'll do this, we'll do that. I never hear anybody take responsibility when law enforcement fails. And I was raised by law enforcement. I despise law enforcement. I was raised by a brutal law enforcement man I've never seen anything good in law enforcement in my entire life. That's why I have nothing good to say. I've received nothing from law enforcement for 61 years except bull. That's all I've ever received, okay? So I like chopping. I'm gonna chop here, okay? You guys want money and everybody wants this and that, you know, and the police need protection, okay? Right here, police, no to smaller raises, okay? Here's one for Sheriff Lusk. Former deputy sheriff, charged with embezzlement, okay? Here, ex-officer, shot unarmed teen, had history of aggression. Decision loon for Chicago police officer, testify or not, Jason Van Dyke. This guy was convicted of murder. He's in jail. Grand jury, Dallas officer shooting of neighbor was murder. Okay, I got him here. Ex-Texas cop, guilty of murder on black teen. We got all kinds of stuff here. Border patrol, agent convicted as a serial killer. We don't ever hear any of that. I mean, it's all I hear from you people is how great you are and how good you are. I never hear the mistakes you made, other than Mr. Massera just kind of made a comment. I don't hear any of that. And there's no way that the employees in this county and this state are that perfect that there's nothing like that. That's why I come here and I do this. There's never any accountability. It's always minimalized. Oh, well, we made a mistake 30 years ago and blah, 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 blah. All right, well, I'm going to read on to this. Shut me off when my 3 minutes are up. Vigilantes with a badge. Here's another thing. A true recipe for disaster. America takes our gullible young citizens, we brainwash them with a diet of violence by subjecting them to video games, hyped up terror alerts, and the presence of uniformed military officers throughout their entire day. We hype the cops up on the supposed superiority of their uniform, along with the power of the weapons they so flagrantly wield, then keep them woefully ignorant of the proper procedures of how to handle a situation by resorting to violence only as a last resort, all the while training them with tactics used only by military personnel. At the time, we allow them to remain illiterate about the most important document in our society, on my tie here, the Constitution of the United States, while never stressing to them that they are peacekeepers and peacemakers, not vigilantes, who are subservient and respectful to their true masters and employers, the taxpayers and the citizens. That's us. Once our government and huge corporations have them completely indoctrinated with this mirage that they somehow belong to some stupid brotherhood honor code and their own set of regulations, they are then placed in situations where citizens knowing or unknowingly challenge their authority, where they justifiably or not might feel threatened and have to decide between opening fire or the much more mature and difficult choice of adequately investigating or assessing the facts of risk and danger which the situation presents. 1 second here and I'll be done. In present-day America, with militarized police protected by the courts, once routine encounters have now become inherently dangerous to our citizens. So there you go. That's just how I feel about it. And until I see different and I see some real, the only thing I see with spending this money is I don't see any safety. All I see is an increase in my property taxes. That's the only thing I see out of this. So thank you, Commissioner.
Mr. Lauer, before you leave, look, the pain that you have from what happened with your father, we can't take away.
I understand that.
And the only thing I could say is that...
This is how I relieve myself.
I know it, but this is what I would ask you to do. Look at each person as an individual. That's why I told you the story about Dick.
They don't look at themselves as an individual. They're an entity. I have to look at them as an entity.
I know, maybe they do. And also, just think about whether the pain that you suffered is coloring your perspective on all people. And that's what happens with all of us. So I'm happy to talk to you more about it, but...
No, that's fine. I appreciate that. But as it stands right now, I am not pro-law enforcement. I am not. I'm 100%. I'm going to do everything I can to fight, take as much money as I can from it. That's the way I feel about it. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay, other public comment at this time? If not, the meeting is adjourned till Tuesday, February the 18th, 10 a.m. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Have a good day. Thank you very much. Oh, jump back there.